Wasn't that beautiful? It reminds me of a beautiful colored flag. The lovely staghorn sumac is just a whole bunch of colors this time of season. So welcome back. I'm just down by the river here on a windy day, sitting beside this giant maple beside me, just giant sugar maple, and sitting down by the water because I want to talk a bit more about preparedness, and obviously about the cabin well test results are back. So I thought I'd share those with you guys. I gave you my predictions in one of my last videos where I was talking about putting in a well at the cabin. So it's pretty exciting to have it there. Let's get into it. So why did I decide to put a well in at the cabin? Well, we've been there about 11 years now and basically been hauling in water either from the river or bringing it in from a safe, clean water source. And then eventually we upgraded to getting some water for washing and stuff with the treated rainwater. But drinking water was always from a safe treated water source. But essentially, you know, times are changing. The climate is changing. At the cabin, at times, there's been significant droughts for years. I mean, we've always been under fire ban, you know, in the summertime. This year, it probably is the first year in a long time we haven't had a fire ban in the area. So it's been very dry. So it's been hard to kind of keep up with the rain barrels in terms of showers and, you know, just general cleaning and stuff like that. Just because they just aren't filling up all the way like they used to. So you end up really rationing. And I even found that, you know, bringing in water in the wintertime, bringing, you know, the big blue jugs in and the sled and stuff, it does get, you know, kind of onerous at times. And I found that I was kind of rationing myself like almost too much with the water, you know. I'm like, oh, well, I won't drink that much today, or, you know, I don't know. It's just, or just not washing the dishes as well as I wanted to wash them, you know what I mean? So not being like, I don't know, it just wasn't working as well anymore. And given the climate change and whatnot, I felt that we needed a more stable source of water, a really clean source of water. Because although we are on a river, that river water, you know, it looks lovely, but I've been noticing some changes over the last, I'd say 2 to 3 years, where the bay is getting a lot more algae bloom and stuff in it. The river is actually controlled by hydro as well, so the levels fluctuate. In the wintertime, levels get, you know, they're low. They drain right down, so it becomes difficult to collect water from there. In the winter, we shut down all, you know, the pipes to the wash house, so there's no water flowing in there, so I can't use the rainwater. And I drain the barrels so they don't freeze solid. So that was part of it. The convenience and the safety, and the water in the river is not as clean as you'd like it to be, so there'd be a lot of treatment involved in that, and it's not as a reliable source given the winter as water levels fluctuate. And it's a bit of a distance from the cabin, so it'd be a while to, you know, several hundred meters to kind of like pump it up to the cabin. So that wasn't going to work. So then thought about the well. Another reason for a well is that, you know, I mean, I really feel for everybody. I mean, since I last talked to you guys, there's been 2 massive hurricanes in the U.S., just awful, for Florida and North Carolina there. And I mean, I think people in the, you know, in the States there, some areas were just not prepared, especially North Carolina. There was just, it just sort of came on so fast. And, you know, when you're in kind of a hilly area, mountainous area, you don't really think that, you know, that kind of thing could cause such destruction and severe flooding as it did. So that's another thing that made me really think, oh, this is kind of a good idea, because where the cabin is, like I said earlier, it's on a river, and it's a hydroelectric dam controlled river. So it was a really wild river at one point. It was dammed up, and they're, you know, kind of getting the hydro from that for our electricity. But you know, there's a potential that if there's a major storm, some of those dams, they give way or whatever, and then a massive amount of water could just suddenly flood the area by the cabin and wash out the roads. And there really isn't too many ways out from where the cabin is. So the big concern, I don't think the cabin would flood because we're up kind of on a cliff, but the roadway would wash out completely. And there would be probably no way to get out of there other than by boat. And it would be probably treacherous waters, dirty waters. So one, to have a good source of reliable water, you know, for those situations where there could be a natural disaster. Because I feel that with the climate changing the way it is, I think there's going to be more disastrous weather events. The cabin we had at Derico that went through and created a lot of damage, you know, pulling trees down and stuff like that. There's no flooding or anything, but the roads were shut down at the cabin for some time, and there was no hydro out there for at least a week. So it's not beyond the realm of possibility that something disastrous could happen by the cabin. So I think putting in a clean source of water that you know, we can get readily and safe was a good move, honestly. So without further ado, let's talk about the results of the well testing. So when I had the well put in, the plumber shocks the well, plumbed everything into the wash house. We also have a way to get water in the winter through the well. It's a hydrant style well, so I can just kind of turn it on, and we just have a little wee Honda generator that will just run it just to get a bit of water that we need. We have jugs up there to kind of put them in to take them up to the cabin for winter. When you guys saw me there last, I just gave you my opinions on what I thought the water was going to be like. Initially, my feeling, so just to recap, was that the water was going to be hard water because the soap came off super easy on my hands. It felt really nice, like really nice water on the hands. I'm used to water softened water because the well here is extremely hard water, so it has to be softened to be able to drink it even. So I felt that the water at the cabin was going to be hard water. Thankfully there was absolutely no smell, so I didn't think there was going to be any sulfur or any other nasty things in there. The other thing was I wondered, I wanted to make sure all the bleach was out of there before one, sending it for testing, and B, drinking it basically. So I want to check on the pH because, as you know, bleach is very basic, very caustic, and the strengths that they put in there to shock your well are pretty strong. So you guys saw me rummage around the cupboard, and I ended up with like a hibiscus tea, and hibiscus is a good natural pH indicator. So my predictions were that I was somewhere near neutral pH-ish. Hibiscus is not super specific in that kind of range, but you know, it was definitely not the yellow that when it changed when it turned into the bleach solution when I mixed that in. It was definitely kind of like that kind of pinky purpley color. So I figured we were pretty good, that we were near neutral, but the bleach was kind of all gone. There was no bleach smell after I ran the pump for some time. And I also predicted that there likely wouldn't be any coliform bacteria or you know, any of the E. coli. I figured it would be negative. You know, it went to a pretty clean water source. Basically about 200 feet down is where they hit the water, and that obviously shocking the well, you know, would be enough to kind of deal with it. So hopefully, I'll show you this. We'll find out if there's any bacteria in there. So let's see if my predictions are right. So I had the water tested at Eurofins. It's a laboratory that tests all kinds of things, including water. So I picked the package where I tested for, you know, bacteria. I checked for mineral content, checked for like obviously like alkalinity, other things like that. Just they have a general chemistry package, they call it. So that's kind of what went in there. I also added on arsenic as well because I'd read that in some areas of Canada, if you drill into bedrock, you could have arsenic sort of come into the water supply, and that can kind of dissipate over time, but you want to make sure that it's sort of within acceptable limits before you even attempt to drink it or shower in it or whatnot. So I got a little paranoid. I added that onto the testing as well. All right, so this is the kind of report, if you go to one of these places, that you'll get back. If you work with a company, like a well testing company, they kind of, you know, summarize it in plain English for you as to what you need to know. So basically, we are in a non-regulated water. This is non-regulated water for Ontario. So category A is kind of what we're looking at here. We're not B or C. So what it is A, these are sort of the normal limits or acceptable limits for these things they're testing for right here. And this is kind of what the cabin well water tested at. So as you can see, the chloride levels are really low, which is good. That can impart really yucky taste to the water. So we're at 15, normal 250. Some nitrates, we would hope we didn't have any of those in there. That's the kind of stuff you check when you check your fish tank water in the well and see if it's kind of dirty water kind of thing. So ours, it's really clean, 0.1. Sulfates, could kind of tell you already there was really not much in there. So acceptable is 500, we're at 28. So the prediction was right there. Ion balance, it's pretty balanced there. So here we are, we're checking the alkalinity. And acceptable is 500, we're 137. They check the conductivity of it. I mean, some of these things are important, some of them aren't as important to me. Fluoride. So in city water, you'll get fluoridated water to help cavities in your teeth. Obviously, natural water doesn't really have a lot of it in there, so the cabin is at 0.4, acceptable is 1.5. And then hardness. Okay, so this is looking at the calcium carbonate there. It's a calculation. So normally for water that's sort of acceptable, it's 80 to 100. So as you can see, the water is slightly hard. So, I mean, I'm not that worried about a hardness of 133. For example, at the other well I have at the house, the hardness is like 380, and we have to have a water softener in there. We also have high sulfur content, so we have, the softener helps with that, as well as we have an iron extractor too, because we've got iron in there. So I'm not super worried at 133. There are off-grid water softeners that you can buy, but I don't really think at 133, like, you know, when I did a little test at the cabin where I put the well water in the glass and then let it, you know, shook it out and let it sit overnight, it didn't really get a lot of, you know, that white film on it that you see with really hard water that can damage fixtures and piping and stuff like that. So I'm not overly worried at 133, but just so you guys know, there are off-grid water softeners that you can get. People get them, for example, when you're camping for your trailer and stuff like that. You can buy them, you can check them out online. But I don't think for now a softener won't be in the cards. I don't really think it's necessary at that level. And if you look at the pH, well, there you go. So it was 7.9, so that's not too bad at all. I was pretty close. Again, the indicator with the hibiscus tea is not like exact. So it was, it's thinking it was near neutral, and well, you know, just a little bit above. It is a bit basic, but nowhere near any concerning range. Like, that's the normal amount of pH, 25 Celsius for drinking water. So we're well within limits there, nothing of concern, but my prediction was fairly close. All right, so here we go, checking for some metals. So arsenic, iron, and manganese. Well, the house is terrible for iron, but here we're just squeaking in underneath the cutoff for iron there at 0.27. And for manganese, really nothing there, and really nothing to report there for arsenic, so that makes me very happy. That was something that's kind of worrying me a bit, because there are some pockets in Newfoundland, Ontario, and I think some other places in the East Coast as well. Drill into bedrock, you could have arsenic, so you may want to check your wells, guys, if you are doing a newly drilled well. You don't want to be drinking well water with arsenic in it. So our level's very good. And other metals, it's going to tell you a bit more about the calcium, magnesium, potassium, and sodium. Don't really have too many levels there except for the sodium, and obviously not going to have a lot of that there. So the water does not taste salty. Sometimes when you drill a well, you end up into a little bit of a vein. It's a little bit salty, but no, this one's fine. No limits on this stuff for calcium or magnesium. This is probably just an indicator it's a little bit hard water. Obviously, it's drilled into granite. The magnesium, I don't think that's too bad. This is what you all wanted to see, and this is what I wanted to see, was that there's 0 E. coli, 0 total coliforms, so that's really good. I didn't think there was going to be any issues there. It was farmland in the past, but you know, I mean, we're going down about 200 feet to hit water, so I really don't suspect it. It's a brand new well going in. So far there's no, you know, ingress of water from the exterior with contaminants in it, so I think we're good. I'm going to be checking it a few times each year just to be sure that, especially for new well, to get used to it, to make sure, test in the spring again, test summer, fall. You know, the province in Ontario so far has allowed us to do that for free. It may change in the future with some of our government changes, but I plan to test more frequently, just in that first year at least, just to make sure that I'm comfortable that it's going to stay clean. It's also important to test after a major weather event like severe flooding or something like that. Or if there's been, I guess, work down beneath the well. If you have any kind of concerns that there's been damage to the well itself, then you should test the water. Or if you're working on the plumbing, you should always shock the well after, because you could have, if the system isn't closed anymore and you're bringing bacteria in, then it could contaminate into the well. So the other thing they send you is a certificate of analysis, the exceedance summary. So the only thing in excess was the hardness, just at 133, but not too concerning. So I don't think I'm going to do a whole lot about that. I'm super happy with the results. My predictions were basically bang on, so I'm super happy to have a safe well there that'll be there for a very long time, and I'm really fortunate to be able to put one in. It is an investment, but I think it'll pay off dividends in the future, obviously, and just peace of mind as well, especially for, you know, disaster preparedness as things are changing nowadays. So anyways, let me know what you guys think, and your well experiences. And you know, my heart goes out to everybody in the U.S. now dealing with the aftermath of Milton and Helene. That was just a horrific thing to live through, and we'll have just ripples for decades on into the future after that disaster. It's so unfortunate. So our hearts here in Canada are with you guys. Hang in there. It's a really tough time, but we're all thinking of you. And yeah, I hope to see you guys in the next video. Happy Thanksgiving to those of my Canadian viewers this weekend. It certainly is a beautiful day out there. Have a great week as always. We'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.